I'm Jenna Miscavige. I was born and raised in Scientology. I left when I was 21 years old and wrote a book about it. My uncle, David Miscavige, is the leader of Scientology, and this is my YouTube channel. Hey guys, I am on an airplane. I'm on my way to Clearwater, and I have the whole row to myself, and so I thought it would be an amazing time to answer a question. All right, so the question is from Beleaf Martine, and it says, "Hello, Jenna. What makes it that you're shy in front of a camera?" So I thought this was an interesting question, and it definitely made me think about why it was that I was shy, because I have done a lot of media and stuff in the past, and so just thinking about it kind of led me down a trail, and I thought that it would be really interesting to talk about. So I was pretty social growing up because I grew up in an environment in Scientology where I knew everybody. So I was always around people who I'd known my whole life. And so I had a lot more confidence. Or I guess I'm just assuming that's why it was. But I was a confident kid for the most part. But then when I left Scientology, I kind of lost, well, I did lose everyone who I'd ever known my whole life, all at once. And that was pretty difficult. Like, it was kind of shocking. And I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but it was still a big change. And it's also pretty introverting. Like, how can at that time, not a ton of people had left publicly. Some people definitely had, but it's like still introverting. It's like when everybody who you'd known your whole life all of a sudden sort of won't talk to you anymore. It does to some degree make you self-conscious. And on top of that, Scientology was really saying all these bad things about me. And my whole life, it had been an organization that I was a part of and that I greatly respected. And even though I was disaffected, it's still, the things that they said about me still made me question myself. I simply couldn't help it. It was a group that I'd been a part of my whole life. And then I think, what compounded that was that when I left, me and my ex-husband, we lived with his parents, and his family were still very much Scientologists. And so they sort of saw me as somebody who was taking their son out of Scientology. And so I was a bad person. And so it kind of felt like everyone all of a sudden thought I was a bad person. And I think that, at first I sort of remained who I was, confident, for a few years. But after many, many years of this, it just takes its toll on you. I'd always had a lot of friends, even when I was in Scientology. I always had somebody who was my best friend. And I was sort of in this new situation where I didn't have any friends, or maybe I had like one or two friends, but then I moved to a different workplace because the workplace that I started at was Dallas, my ex-husband's parents' family. And it was run basically completely on Scientology principles. And many of the people running it were also Scientologists. So I got a new workplace. And so I kind of had no friends. And then pretty quickly after that, I had my son. And then I moved to Virginia, and we lived in like the country, in like kind of the middle of nowhere. We had 27 acres. And so I kind of went from being somebody who was quite social and was literally never alone in my life. I always lived in a dorm with people. I never had any alone time, to being somebody who kind of didn't have any friends and was pretty lonely. And ironically, I never would have been able to tell you this at the time. I never would have considered myself lonely or sad or anything like that. But I think that I really was. And I think that going through this phase of not really having friends, and on some level thinking that I had to keep my past Scientology life somewhat secret, or that I was different than other people, I really think that it added to that feeling. Now, of course, I told people And at the time I was speaking to the media and stuff like that, but it wasn't something that I told like any random person who I met. And I didn't really have a tribe of people who already knew me. And so, yeah, I just think that that was a big change in my life. And it really hit my confidence pretty hard. When I moved back to San Diego after being in Virginia for 3 years, which was, and at that time I also had my daughter, I actually made a lot of friends because I made a big effort to. I made an effort to put in consistent time with seeing people, to drive, to go see my friends. And I made a lot of friends, but I think because I knew I needed friends, I would kind of be friends with just anyone. And that was a lesson that I also had to learn. Like, was that there are people who are kind of more your people and people who aren't. And so I was kind of exerting a lot of energy on people who I was kind of forcing myself into a friendship situation with, or I was kind of forcing myself to like them. And it's not that they were bad, and it's not that everyone doesn't deserve to be liked. It's just that I didn't value myself enough at that time to value my time and to value how I was treated. I think being a stay-at-home mom and having young kids is pretty isolating anyways. And then, after I had my daughter, I gained a whole bunch of weight. And anytime I would see photos of myself, I would just look at them and I felt like it wasn't me. Like it felt like, I don't know, it just didn't look like me. And it like would kind of mess with my identity. So I never really took any photos of myself. And around this time is when I wrote my book. And I was I was I was in the media, I was on several TV programs, but I never watched them just because when I would hear my voice, it just didn't sound like me. And on some level, even though it was me and I was talking about Scientology, there was always, I've struggled, I would say for most of my life after I left Scientology, with the fact that there's the me who was who I was in Scientology, and then there's the me who I would have been if I wasn't in Scientology, who's, maybe more a creative person, is silly. And when I would be appearing in the media, it would be talking about a very serious subject. And um, it would sort of be like telling these horrible stories. So I wasn't really showing up as myself, as my natural personality. I mean, it would have been inappropriate too, so that's fine. But sort of becoming known as that person who was in the cult and only as that person um, kind of gave me a feeling of not really being seen or being known. I mean, this was all subconscious. Like I never really put words to this feeling or took the time to think about it at the time. But when I look back, all of this sudden change in my life really took a knock to my confidence and really shook my personal identity and who I was. So for many years, I just never took photos of myself. Like I have almost no photos with just me and my kids. I would take so many photos of my ex-husband and my kids and so many videos that were so beautiful. And even though I spent all my time with them, I didn't have any photos. When I would have my Instagram for my flower business, I would never show my face. It would just make me so introverted. But when I got divorced and I stopped doing my flower business, a lot of people suggested that I have a YouTube channel. Like many people were suggesting it to me. And I was like, what part of my personality makes you think that I should have a YouTube channel? Because I had just sort of become this shy, sort of shell of myself. And that's who I had convinced myself who I was. when in reality, when I was a kid, I was kind of obnoxious. Okay, I wasn't really obnoxious, but maybe a little, and outgoing and energetic. And I sort of just had become this person that was like someone who I thought that would be acceptable to everybody, maybe not offend anybody, and just sort of people pleasing. And I think since my divorce and since I have, sort of changed environments and I have a little bit more time to myself, it has been an opportunity for me to look at all of these things and sort of see how I've changed over the years. And some of that change has been for the better. It's made me a more humble, thoughtful person, where maybe when I was younger, I was just a little bit more brash, but it swung so far in the other direction that, that the real me is probably somewhere in the middle. After I got divorced, I started to listen to books, and some podcasts, and a lot of them would talk about self-limiting beliefs and my idea that I was just shy and that I'm not interesting or boring or that I would never have the personality that people would want to watch or be on YouTube. I just realized that I was telling myself that because I thought it was more safe and so that I never had to find out, basically. I never had to find out and fail and be rejected and lose all of my friends like I did when I left Scientology. Um, and when I realized that, I kind of got this itch to sort of challenge myself. Whenever I would speak about Scientology in the media, Scientology would say that, oh, she just wants her 15 minutes of fame and she's just using her name to get attention. And whenever I was in Scientology and I would say, I'm not okay with what's happening, they would tell me. When I first heard about SPTV, I was really inspired how about this people like Aaron, they are. You think you're special. The criticisms that Scientology and throws at them and just sort of, he just sort of laughs it off. Over again my entire life, I realized that how much it got to me and how much I would limit myself because of that. Sorry guys, there's some turbulence. But I was really limiting myself because of the things that other people who really did not have my best intentions at heart were telling me. And that's really sad. Like, I already had people limiting me. I did not need to be limiting myself in that way. And uses it to make fun of them. And I had just been becoming really introverted by it and defensive. And that was just really inspiring to me. Because it's true, the things that they say are completely ridiculous. And it's so transparent what they're doing. But I think that when I first started speaking out about Scientology, there wasn't a ton of people doing it. And so just having a community of people who support and who know Scientology's tactics and who know how full of shit they are and that they'll say anything, I think has been really helpful. At this point in my life, I have so many friends who I feel like really know me and who I feel like love and appreciate me for who I am. They're not in competition with me. They're not talking down to me. They see value in me personally. And that has meant so much. That has meant just so much to me in the last year. So I started to think of putting myself out there on YouTube as a sort of personal challenge. And it wasn't because it was something because I wanted to do something that wasn't me at all. It's actually doing YouTube and speaking about Scientology, speaking about my life, and having opinions and putting myself out there is something that is completely me. It just hasn't been who I am for the last several years, but it is me, and I wanted to get back to that. And so that's what I'm doing now. And I'm not all the way there yet, but I am enjoying it. I think one of the reasons why YouTube is actually healing, I realized this when I was listening to a podcast the other day with Emma Chamberlain. I really like her. And she was talking about how YouTube is sort of like a mirror. So you can sort of almost watch your videos and learn things about yourself that weren't obvious to you. And I've found that to be true. Because I think part of complex trauma is not really knowing who you are fully. And sometimes people telling you certain things about yourself is really helpful in that way. And I actually have found that just watching back my videos, or even through people's comments, I just, I don't know, it's just this mirror that really helps me to learn more about myself, which is so important for healing and for stepping into who you really are. And I've really enjoyed that. The kindness that I get from people on YouTube has been amazing. It's so great to have a community who supports me and just is so wonderful and kind and just listens. And I've also had some haters, which has been kind of good practice. Like, it's been good to see that I'm definitely strong enough to overcome just, having haters is part of this game. It's part of putting yourself out there. And so it's just been good to see how little that's affected me. And and that I've just been able to overcome that and not even really worry about it. But I hope that kind of answers the question as to why I've been camera shy and why it's been so important to me to try to be more consistent in making videos and putting myself out there, because it's just part of my healing journey, and I'm really enjoying it, and I'm really grateful for all you guys out there who pay attention to anything I have to say, and for my community of friends and wonderful people who I've met through doing this. So thank you so, so much. All right, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. If you have any questions whatsoever about Scientology, about my life, please put them in the comments, and I will get to them soon. Also, don't forget to check out Sins of Scientology on YouTube, and turbulence. And if you haven't already read my book, you can find it on Amazon. It's called Beyond Belief: My Secret Life Inside Scientology and My Harrowing Escape. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.